Peace and Black Power, family. Welcome to another Sarnetta TV production. Black News 102. Black News Alert. Alright, family? Black Power. This is a disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this video are not necessarily represent the views and opinions held by this channel's owner, Sarnetta, Black News 102, and Sarnetta Studios. The owner of these channels is just the messenger, and we share information having no intentions whatsoever to misrepresent or mislead anybody. Unfortunately, we cannot always warrant the total accuracy of the information in this video, and cannot be held accountable for errors. Enter at your own risk, family. Peace and Black Power.
Okay, Mr. Brown, can you disconnect the power? This one. All right. Okay, very good. So, the GIJ stands for God. God in all God's dimensions. The I dimension stands for the material dimension. And the J dimension stands for the space. God is the universe. But people are mistaken when you say the universe. They think you're talking about the material universe. Okay? The universe or God is the large space that is full of motion. That's what the universe or God is. But the material universe is the concentration of that large force field. It's just only a part. And it's a very small part of the universe. The concentration is so small. The biggest star is a very tiny part of the universe. Very, very, very small. Okay? So it isn't that is important. It's the one that you don't see that is not concentrated. The less visible you are, the more powerful you are. That's why darkness is associated with brilliance and power. In other words, God is a brother or a sister. That's what we're talking about. And that's why melanin plays a major role in that process. Melanin. So the IJ is the dimensions. Of course, we said before the comma is change. Change in that whole entity is zero. Because God is infinite. Now, the idea of God being viewed in a human body is just to help our mind to conceptualize. Because sometimes for you to appreciate something, you need to be able to wrap your mind around it. And if it's too large, you cannot wrap your mind around it. Okay? So that is why you get a father or mother figure to represent God. But that's a disservice to God in terms of the totality of God. It's a minimization. I mean, the word minimum is not even enough to describe what you do to God when you put God in a human body. That's part of what, God is teaching the world that has compelled the Catholic Church to revise the Bible. That's a very major thing that is happening currently. The church now has concluded, consistent with what God has presented, okay, that yes, God inspires humans, but our human system is so imperfect that in the process of trying to communicate that inspiration, you put your human limitations to it. And so it doesn't necessarily come out the way that God gave it to you, necessarily. So that's why there are errors. If God wrote something, that thing must be perfect. If God does not make mistake, in other words, God is so brilliant, God does not make mistake. So in God's writing, there will not be any typographical error. The lining in the book will be perfect. But that's not what we see. So that couldn't possibly be written by God. And of course, when you go into the various books, the holy books, there are a lot of factual errors there. In Genesis, for example, chapter 1, verse 16. It says that God created two sources of light. One was the sun and one was the moon. God could never say something like that. God created the sun and the moon. And God knows that the sun is a source of light, but the moon only reflects light. So God could never have written Genesis 1 chapter 16. God did not write that. And there are a lot of other things like that. So we know that yes, you get inspiration, but sometimes unintentionally you put your human errors in the process. So that is how the Catholic Church and by extension the other church are going to be changing things. Because God is about the totality of the truth. Because only the truth can set the world free. Okay? The truth, for example, is that you need oxygen in order to survive. You can't put lie in that situation. You can't say, oh no, I need carbon monoxide. You'll be dead. If you say you need carbon dioxide, that means you're lying. And that will kill you. The lies kill. Lies are not real. And they kill the deadly. Therefore, truth is the only thing that is real. Okay? If you say, for example, I have $1 billion when you don't have it, you lie. That's not real. That $1 billion doesn't belong. It's not there. Okay? So, but now, the immediate thing that you get from Gargat is the longevity program. God was able to reveal through this equation to us the secret of life. God explained to us through this equation that life exists in the form of waves. Waves. There's something called the life waves that's attached to the brains. And so in order to glue life to the body, which is longevity or what makes you stay alive, you need oxygen. You need oxygen. Oxygen is what glues life to the brains or to the body. So you need oxygen. That means you need to be able to breathe. Breathing is the most important thing. To get in the oxygen into your system, into your bloodstream, that will take it into your brains. The only time a person is declared dead is when they stop breathing. There is no glue to glue the life waves into your brains. So the life brains develop what you call an escape velocity and takes off from the body. And that's when a person dies. So in order to prolong life then, you have to glue the life waves to the body by making sure that oxygen is supplied, steady. So whatever you do, learn how to breathe. Whatever you do, keep your lungs clear. Keep your lungs clear. Now, the ways that you can stop breathing, there are several ways. Either your lungs are clogged, okay, or your heart does not pump the blood to the brain. Either way, your brain is going to be starved of oxygen. So, how do you solve that? Revelation showed us through this formula that the most important part of our meal, if you want to stay alive, is to drink distilled water. From now on, all of you will be drinking distilled water, not bottled water. And the distilled water will become the most important part of your meal. Distilled water. You will drink at least 3 glasses before your meal, not after your meal. After your meal, you may not leave enough space for the water. You drink distilled water. Distilled water is the cleanest water possible. And the cleanest water is the one that cleans your body the most. When we came into this world, we came in with distilled water. It was distilled water we came in. Because we don't have natural distilled water, we settled to go for water that has less quality. Like all this, especially tap water and all those others, those are terrible water. Some of them don't even make ladder. If you put soap in them, they don't make ladder. That means that they cannot clean anything. So they cannot clean the toxins in your system. The purpose of the water is to clean the toxin in your system. Therefore, digestion becomes a major part. Digestion. You got to be able. The purpose of food is to give you energy. That's all you need from food. You don't need food stored in your system. The food is supposed to come, give the energy, and get away. When you came into this world, you didn't have a deposit of food in your system. You had energy in your system, not leftovers. What kills us is the leftovers. The undigested food. What happens to the undigested food is the white blood cells that are protectors for the body. When the undigested food stays too long, it doesn't go out too quickly, the white blood cells go out to attack it. And in the process, they are killed. And when they're killed, phlegm develops. And that phlegm clogs your system. And you're going to be sick. And so, when you are sick, you want to get rid of that phlegm. Distilled water is the best way to get rid of the phlegm. More than 80% of your body is water. That is distilled water when you came into this world. Distilled water. So, your food must be arranged in that kind of proportion where 80% of your food is water, distilled water. And after that, you will drink juice with vitamin C and all that. That helps your immune system. And then you will you eat fruits as well. And then you will eat soup with fish. Stay away from meats. Fish is good nutrition and good oil and good protection. Fish is good stuff, okay? And it's got good protein as well. So you need a minimum amount of solid food. But if you must eat solid food, which is the last part of your meal, you eat it with green, leafy vegetables. You're going to eat it, you're going to overwhelm them with spinaches and collard greens and any of those, any of those greens. You eat lots of that with your solid. So that as soon as they hit, within an hour, you're flushed out. You will not have colon problems. Most of those cancers that come out there because of the leftover from the food. Because you don't drink distilled water. So you must now begin a regimen of distilled water. So you're going to be consuming lots and lots. From now on, that's only water that you're going to be drinking. Which means that you all are going to get into the business of producing distilled water. You're now going to take the leadership role in teaching the world how to live lives, how to be healthy. This is mathematics. What I'm telling you is mathematics. This is not the guesswork. Oh, this guy said this and all that. That's not what I'm saying. This is mathematics. You need water in your body. The only water that you should be needing is the cleanest water, and that is distilled water. That's mathematics. I didn't say, well, if you try this and all. No, I'm not saying that. You simply use the cleanest water so as to clean. That's your inside. You want to clean it with the best possible water. So, in that process, there should be the flow of this oxygen that goes to glue, serves as a glue to your life waves. And then you can continue literally forever. Should you get sick, okay, you have, especially these days of the flu, they're predicting all this horrible flu. Any brother or sister with AIDS must be on the regimen that I'm prescribing right now. If you should get sick, because if you are HIV, the problem is that your immune system has been compromised. That means that you can easily get sick. You can have headaches, and that could kill you. So if that attacks come on your body, stop putting any solid food in your mouth immediately. Cut that out. The solid food tasks your system. And if it stays too long, the white blood cells begin to fight it. That's similar to allergy. The white blood cells recognize certain things in your body that are supposed to be friendly. Solid food is not one of those. Those are foreigners. And once they identify as foreigners, they go and actually attack it. And when they attack it, they get killed. And what happens is phlegm develops. And that phlegm clogs up your system. So you stop eating. And you can fast until you're really, really hungry. You can fast. You go on fasting. Sometimes I do up to 48 hours. Okay? But you could do 6. Or any time that you can take it to. When you break in the fast, you drink maybe half a gallon of distilled water. Half a gallon. Then you follow it up with a cup of juice. Orange juice is good. Grape is good too. Then you try some fruits as well. Then you can go to pepper soup. Maybe that might hold you. You may not need anything maybe till the next meal. But in that situation, you will not have indigestion problem because all you have there is liquid. But the soup provides nutrition. Okay, even if it's vegetable soup or clear broth, they have enough nutrition in it. Okay? But make no mistake, you do not drink water for minerals. The reason you drink water is not so you get minerals from it. If that was the case, you'd be taking the stones off the floor and putting in your mouth. That is a mineral. That's not how it is. Minerals are supposed to be consumed within certain systems, usually the plants and things like that. That's the way you're supposed to have minerals, not through water. So the gimmicks in which they use in terms of sell you, bottled water and all that, that is not right. Either they don't know it or they're not being fair. You're not supposed to consume those minerals in the water. Water must be pure. Okay? So, but if you are still hungry after the soup, okay, whatever your favorite solid food, you must eat it with green leafy vegetables. Green leafy vegetables, overwhelm it. Okay? If you're eating rice, tons of it. If you're eating even black-eyed peas, tons of those. Okay? And so what happens is, about an hour after if you just within the fast, usually it takes me no more than 5 minutes before I go to the bathroom. After the fast. And you will see how you'll be clean completely. And you could begin to feel health immediately. Because your lungs will be clear. And you'll be breathing. And the oxygen will go into your blood, and blood transfer into your brains. You are perfect, you're in good health. And on that basis, you're going to stay for a long time. You're going to stay long because your system will function. Your organs will not be taxed. Your kidneys will be flushed very well. Your kidney needs good water. Okay? It needs good water to function. And the distilled water is the best water you can give to your kidneys. And then your last meal for the day, you must exercise. The exercise helps the digestion. Because if you think of flour, if you put flour in a bowl of water, okay, it will stay on the surface. That's how eating is. You need to shake that bowl in order to get the powder to go down or to mix. That's digestion. Digestion is like that. You need to shake it. That's what it's so. All you could just do like this. Sometimes that's all I do. But you're shaking the system and it's helping the digestion. And so by the time you're ready to go to bed, the food is digested. In fact, you would have gone to the bathroom and you're perfect. Your system will continue to function. So you have this regimen that's composing of water, distilled water, large. So you drink at the beginning. And then the juice and fruits. Those are very, very important. Okay? Then the soup. Okay? By the time you flush your system, you're satisfied, but you don't have a bloated stomach. And you're breathing properly. The key is to be breathing properly. Because the only time they declare a person dead is when they stop breathing. And you can stop breathing if your lungs are clogged, or if your heart does not pump. So, but if you tax all those organs, all this blood pressure will have no place. Blood pressure comes as a result of the clogging of your system. When you drink distilled water, blood pressure has no chance. And so it is that for 5 years, I haven't had to see any doctor yet. I've been on this regimen for 5 years. 5 solid years. 1999 was the last time I saw a doctor last. Okay? I mean, situation, things that you consider a regular kind of condition, I don't have that. Because this is mathematics. What we're saying here is mathematics. First, it has to do with life. What is life? You have to know the definition of life. Life is wave that's attached to our brains, or is concentrated in the brains. Now, it has a speed. Every wave has speed. But because of oxygen, it gets glued to your system. Now, if you don't supply that oxygen, then it develops an escape velocity and it leaves your body. That is why, if you stop breathing, you're dead. Okay? Without ability to breathe, it's the fastest way to die. Okay? You can stay without water. Okay? For a much longer time than you can stay without oxygen or without ability to breathe. If you stop breathing, you die immediately. And so this is part of the longevity program. There are other things that are going to develop, and this is basically a cure for all conditions. Now, if you already have an organ problem, then of course you must go on this, okay? And you're going to feel a lot better. But we're trying to make sure that the organs are not, because organs are very vital. Your heart, your brains, all those organs must be protected. But if you don't eat the proper, food like I discussed, you're going to tax the organs, and the organs are going to have problems. So basically, that is what we call the longevity program. Now, some of us are going to have need to drink liquor and all that. Well, yeah, that's a habit. You will smoke and all that. But you must stay with this regimen. Okay? You will feel better if you have this, but you're going to hurt yourself that way. Okay? But at least you can, because the distilled water will still flush the toxins from the beer and all this other stuff. It's going to flush them out, But if you can help it, stay away from those as well. The juice are very tasty. So, in other words, like anything else, you need discipline to effect anything that's worthwhile. That's what we're talking about. So I guess any questions, I'm glad to answer. Any questions? Ask every question that, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're talking about the distilled water and the spring water.
Right.
Most of your medical books and doctors, they talk about how if you're drinking distilled water, since nothing is in the water,
Yes.
what it's going to do is going to pull out all the minerals in your body.
That's not true. Don't believe that at all. See, in other words, in that case, all the waters can pull out the minerals too. You understand? The other dirty water can pull out the minerals too. That's not the thing at all. Okay? What happens is you need something that will clean toxins. Toxins is the problem. Toxins. And if you have that other water, they're going to create problem because they bring in minerals in a form that your body cannot consume. Do you know that you cannot take zinc by itself? See, for example, okay, for the men, you also need additionally, you need millet. Millet provides zinc. Okay? I don't believe that they will recommend a tablet, what they call a vitamin, or one of those mineral tablets, for zinc, because you can't digest, you can't, do well with basic mineral going to your system. It's got to be in a form of food. And if it is in water, it's not the same thing. Because the water is not, there's no combination there. They just like, you drop the minerals in them, the metals. That's what, so it's the same like taking metal. So you might as well go and swallow metal. That's what it is like to take metal from the water. Because it's something that fell into it. So it can only hurt you. That doesn't help you at all. Okay? You can't even absorb that. It only causes problems. So water is for cleansing. That's the purpose of water. It's not, because if you want to, if what they say makes sense, you could just have a cup of minerals or of metals and just swallow them. Okay? You can swallow them that way, but they will never recommend that. And the minerals in water is almost like that. It's metals drop into the water. That's what the minerals there is. Not good for you. Absolutely not good for you. So, and they will not keep the lungs clean. As a matter of fact, I know that. When I drink some of those bottled waters or spring water, I get nauseous. Which is a clear sign that that the white blood cells is attacking the metals in the water. That's how the phlegm develops. So this is mathematics. And no doctor can argue what I'm saying right now. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Okay? Minister Brown just got on it. I've been on it for 5 years. Haven't had any need to. By that, see, 5 years ago, I had asthma. Very serious asthma. And I had all this medication, tons of medication that I was supposed to take. When we saw the solution through Gargard. And then I stopped taking the medication. The only cure for asthma is distilled water and the food that I just told you. That's what I'm telling you.
You're saying that's the only water that you drink now is distilled water?
From now on, yes. That's what Gargard said. That's what
you distill it yourself, I assume.
Well, no, you can go. They do have them in Walmart and a few stores, supermarket. But no. But that's just for the moment. That's a short term. We are going to be producing the distilled water. Your business is going to expand for you to be producing distilled water.
There's a water on the market that's called Fiji water. It says it's the properties, it has the artesian properties, which is, since it comes from the islands that haven't been polluted, you're shaking your head saying...
Don't drink that. Don't drink that.
Are you familiar with it?
Yes, I'm familiar. Don't drink any other water but distilled water. That's the only water that you should be drinking, because that's the purest water. Distilled water is produced by when you boil water.
I know.
Exactly. And the steam that comes out of it, the debris is left behind. Purpose is left behind. Let me give you a more concrete proof. The distilled water is a healer. Why? Every medication that you swallow is prepared with distilled water. Every pharmaceutical company uses distilled water for producing every medicine that you eat. That's a proof. Yes, sir.
How about, cultures in the world where distilled water is not available?
Yes.
I mean, are they suffering? Has God provided a natural means for them to have distilled water?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Excellent question. But you see, this is where the leadership and responsibility comes in now. You now are going to go into the business of distilled water. This is going to be the biggest thing for the world now. Everybody's going to be drinking distilled water. Do you understand me? Everybody's going to be drinking distilled water. Now, but your question is an excellent question. So, what about especially our people? The motherland, Africa, they don't have a means of distilled water, although they have the skills of distilling. They distill the liquor. The local gins in Nigeria are distilled by our people. So now they're going to turn those skills into distilling water. Because really it's not that difficult to make distilled water. If you can cool that steam, or recover that steam, that's distilled water. So there's a way to produce distilled water, although it requires a little patience. If you have a pot and you put a bowl face down in that pot with water, okay? You cover it up, and on that bowl that is upside down, you put a cup. You put a cup on it. That cup will get the steam that is recovered from the surface of the cup.
I'm perfect.
And from there you will get distilled water.
But how can you know
So they
that?
can produce distilled water.
Well, we met the other night.
Because it takes a lot of patience to be able to get water.
Well, you take it from me. I know what I'm looking for.
Now, why does he know all this? Why does he want to have a...
They can boil the water and drink it. That is, if they can boil the water, that's not bad. Okay? They can just boil it. But they must boil it at least. Because the problems with distilled water, which is part of the answer to the brother that asked the question before, there are at least two major problems with the other waters. The debris in the water, like the minerals, are problems. And then the germs. More than 50% of the reason why you're sick comes from the water that you drink. The germs that you swallow in the water. Okay? Spring water has a lot of germs in it. A lot of germs in it. Okay? It may not have as much debris, but it still has some minerals and so on and so forth. That mineral can get you sick as well. And I know it makes me sick because when I drink it, I get nauseous. Okay? Immediately, I mean, it's practical. I get nauseous when I drink spring water. So, but there is an informal way to produce distilled water. Okay? Which is what I just told you. Okay? That's simple. But it's going to take a lot of patience to be able to get distilled water that way. A process is going to be, put in place through God that will make the production of distilled water much easier. And there's even a global, yes, one second, brother. There's a bigger program for the distilled water, which will help us solve the global warming problem as well. Because in reality, you could take the sun energy to actually produce the distilled water. So that's in the works. But we're talking about now. I have to announce this now so people can stop dying. Since I have embarked on this program, I have doubled my hope for life. For once in my life, I can see how I can help myself without having to run to somebody else. That's very important. Like I said, should you get sick, if you get sick and you fast and you break the fast with this distilled water, you're going to be healed. And you know that that is right because in the hospital, when you are admitted, what do they do for you in the hospital? They stop solid food in your mouth. They put IV. What do you think is in the IV? Distilled water and some salt and some glucose. That's all there is. But that's what I just told you. Except that I say fast first before you drink your distilled water. And then drink your juice. The juice gives you the glucose. Of course, it's very easy to get the salt if you needed the salt. But by the time you put your distilled water and juice, you got what the hospital gives to you and charges you incredible amount. What they just gave you is no different from what I just prescribed to you. Except you can do that yourself without having to go and lay down in the hospital. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Yes.
Two things about this water. We had a discussion earlier when we had our panel discussion about the containers, the vessels that the water comes in, and they're rated.
Yes.
We understand that there's a rating of a number 7 that's the best rating for these containers.
Yes.
Also, we know that fruits and vegetables are rated.
Yes.
With the number system on the stickers.
Yes.
9 being the highest for organic fruits and vegetables.
Yes.
And I'm alluding to the fact too of maybe organic water in vegetables is more like the distilled water that you're talking about.
Yes.
If it's an organic fruit or vegetable.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes.
The danger of the vessels that the water's in.
Yes.
And how would we put this distilled water in those vessels, and then the better fruit as opposed to the either hybrid fruit or pesticide-filled fruit, or fruit that's been tampered with, geometric fruit and stuff.
Definitely, no. Certainly, the organic is much better. If it's true organic, it's much better, much better. You know, because they put toxins. Those toxins are what kill us. Toxins are no good. They're terrible. And that's why you need the distilled water in order to minimize their impact. You need to wash them out of your system. Because toxin leads to cancer. It leads to all kinds of horrible things. So those pesticides are no good. They're definitely no good. So you want to stay with organic if you can get organic. Okay? But either way, the distilled water has no equal. Absolutely no equal. Should be no substitution for distilled water unless you are in a situation where you can't get one.
What about the containers that water comes in?
Yes, that also is a problem, okay, because you want glass. Glass is good. If you can get a glass container, that's good. Glass is much better. So if you see a container but if you produce it yourself, you will be able to put correct, because the production people are more focused on the money. You know, so they put all kinds of things. They don't really pay attention to, you know. They want money. That's a problem. Because glass will be a good container. Glass is much better.
There are vegetable washers too that you can wash some of the
yes.
pesticides.
That's correct.
I'm not concerned too about what gets in the fruit.
Yeah, no, see, well, yes, if they spray the fruits, that's poison. That's poison. See, because the allergies, you know, what I'm talking about, you know, is a very serious. Allergies can kill you instantaneously. Allergy. And the same thing with the toxins. Toxins can cause you allergies. Because allergy, again, is a situation where the white blood cells are fighting a system. And they die so quickly that they can make your organs fail immediately. Okay? They can stop you from breathing because of the phlegm buildup. I had a cousin, that got a penicillin shot that reacted to it. She was dead instantaneously. So what we're talking about is very, very critical. Okay? The body, classifies entities in it as either friends or enemies. The ones that they declare as enemies, otherwise might be called foreign bodies, they go and attack it. They want to get rid of it. That's their job. Okay? They attack bacteria, they attack, virus and all that. But what you get is phlegm. And that phlegm can be a killer. Because if it blocks your lungs, pneumonia. As a matter of fact, pneumonia is one of the most deadly things in this world. my family, they brought me a pneumonia within these 5 years. Okay? They brought me pneumonia. They went outside, they brought pneumonia. So I actually got pneumonia. And they suggested that I take, one second, that I take penicillin and any of those antibiotics. Okay? And they were taking and said, well, you taking? I said, no. I just stay with the distilled water. Don't you know the distilled water healed me from pneumonia? Pneumonia, and the same thing with asthma. If you knew me 5 years ago, you know that I have asthma. But I can talk now. I don't swallow any medication. So it's about paying attention to what you put in your... In other words, what makes us sick is what goes into our system. That's the bottom line. It's what you put inside you that gets you sick. Which is why the fasting is very effective. If you're fasting, then the germs that are there, even the virus will be starved of nutrition. Even the virus. Okay? So fasting is very good. Okay? And when you break the fast, in other words, water is very serious part of fasting. Because when you fast, there's, there's some, debris that come out, okay? And if you don't wash it out, that itself could be dangerous too. You don't want that to stay in your system. That's why you must drink water, okay? The water will wash, the distilled water will wash it out. So yes, you stay with organic and all that. Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask about your theory about G equals I, J, I.
Awesome.
Is it like Albert Einstein's relativity of light? E equals MC squared thing?
Yes. I wish I could show you that, young brother. Okay, Mr. Buchan, maybe you can connect it. Maybe it's cooled down a little bit. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can show you that. Yes. That's the kind of person we want in the class. Okay? And I hope that we'll find a way to get him quickly, and then I'll get.
He was an inductor, and that's
I get to
sort of all.
GIJ. Okay. See, this is what is happening at MIT, right?
Sorts of.
That is what's happening at MIT. Okay, I'm sorry, Harvard. Said we, the students and faculty of Harvard,
Right,
wish to express our desire to have Dr. Gio Yibo, professor of mathematics and Nobel Prize nominee, gives a lecture at our campus about the discovery of the theory of everything, Gargan, for which he has been nominated for the Nobel Prize. We feel that a lecture and discussion about the scientific and social implications of this theory would be beneficial to our school by broadening our academic and social awareness. Okay? All right. That is happening there. And so when you see this young brother asking questions, you got to give him some credit. Now, this is more here. Remember, these are not just students. There's a student here and the faculty. Okay? Faculty, professors. Okay? Now, even the German armed forces, okay? Look, book offerer, German Federal Armed Forces is selling Gargan's books. Okay? This is MIT. Everybody wants to go to MIT. The same thing, signing the same petition to have this presentation be done over there. Okay? I want you to see this individual, Dmitry Panchenko. Okay? He signs the faculty. Let's see who he is. Okay, it's kind of tiny there. But that's Dmitry Panchenko. That's it over here. Dmitry Panchenko is over. That's his email. Okay? It's kind of, cloudy, but that's him over there. The department is mathematics. And rank is assistant professor from MIT. Okay? He's on the picket line. Okay? This is more of where the books are. Okay, this is the formula. Okay? Gij, comma, j equal to 0. The comma says change. Okay? And this is the solution. God is a mover and shaker. And when God moves you, you go on a path. These are the path that you go on. And then there's a materialization called hydrogen. So what happens is, the Gij, the comma means change. This is where Albert Einstein equation came from, the E is equal to mc squared. The E is equal to mc squared is an equation that describes a situation where in the nuclear reaction, they seem to notice mass was disappearing. They will look, then it seems that the mass was gone. But what they will find is energy. So, in the beginning, they have mass. At the end, they have energy. So that E is equal to mc squared can be rewritten. You can rewrite it by mc squared minus E equals 0. Okay, I don't have something to write here, but you understand? But you can rewrite it as mc squared minus E is equal to 0. So what that means is, at the beginning, you have M, which you can transform into an energy unit by multiplying by c squared. In the end, you have energy. So if you subtract the N, which is E, from the beginning, that's a change. So the change from the beginning, between the beginning and the end, is 0. So that is a change, which is the comma. So that is basically what he's saying here. The N is 0. So that's where he got the equation from. But he wasn't aware of this equation. He didn't know that that's where he got it from. But now we've shown that that's where he got it.
So what you're saying that it begins with mass and then it equals A?
Yes, mc squared minus E is equal to 0. So if you do some little algebra, you can write it as E is equal to mc squared, or mc squared is equal to E. They are equal. So if you subtract them from one another, you get 0. So it's still a change between the initial energy and the final energy is 0. That's what this equation says. And everything in the world obeys that law. Not just energy, not just mass, everything.
Life. Everything in life obeys that?
Oh yeah, well, heat energy obeys that. Electrical energy obeys that. Okay?
Okay.
Even God obeys that. That's why God cannot change. God does not change. Because God is everything. Everything does not change. Okay? God, because if God were to change, God would disappear one day. So the change in God is 0. God cannot change. So if God cannot change, then nothing can change. Whatever you started with will stay basically. So you know what? Let me give you an example. If you woke up in the morning and as a young, brilliant brother, you were a good boy and mama gave you $10 in your pocket. Okay? And you go to school and you bought some lunch. Okay? And maybe later on you go shopping and you bought some candies or whatever. Hope you buy fruits rather than candy. Okay? But, as you spend that money, you're getting your receipt. When you come back home, okay, when you were living, you had $10. You write that down as the initial amount that you had. When you come back, you will put your receipts together with the remainder of the money. That becomes your final amount. So when you take that final amount from the initial, the answer is always 0. Right? That's why no Harvard professor can attack this equation. If you can find anything that would disobey that equation, you let me know. No human being can touch that equation. That's why they're frustrated, and that's why you know that it was given by God. So you're going to be teaching Harvard because they don't fully understand it yet. They can't challenge it, but they will still wonder in their mind how is it that God will give a people this kind of thing. Which is why we're asking you all to celebrate and take on your position as leaders of the world. Because the rest of the world now see you as a leader of the world. But you must celebrate it so it is formalized. That's why you need the African. But by the time you grow up, you will be winning that African Global Academic Prize. But that means you got to talk to mom and dad to help that process so that you can have that when you grow up. Right?
Right.
Yeah, yes, because your great-grandfather, Carver, did great things and he didn't win because we didn't have a prize for him. You know, and because I'm vocal about it, people say, oh, gee, you know, because he was nominated. I'm nominated. You know, I've been nominated for it, okay? But it isn't just me. You want to win the way you're going, you can win that prize. You're asking a question, you know about this already. There's going to be tons of Nobel Prize that come out of this formula. And because you've already started understanding it, you have a good chance at winning a Nobel. I mean, not a Nobel Prize, but the African International Prize, which is bigger than Nobel Prize. And the whole world are going to want to win that prize. But it is in your name. That's what makes it important. One of the things that makes it important is that it is in your name, a black people's name. So you don't have to go beg somebody to evaluate you for the prize anymore. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the other question? You got any more questions?
No.
Okay, good. Yes, brother. Yes.
Elementary math, being is that mathematics is an exact science, and it's a language.
Yes.
How come mathematics on an elementary level is being dealt with so poorly?
Yes.
And whereas it is being dealt with poorly, nobody is learning math on an elementary level.
Yes.
How come some run-of-the-mill math doctorates or even masters not giving some attention to how elementary mathematics can be better written out and presented? That's my first question.
Sure.
My second question concerns the practicality of Gaga.
Yes.
How can I, now I have the books, both of them.
Yes.
How can I, I'm self-employed.
Yes.
How
yes.
could I use this to begin making money as soon as I leave out of the door?
Yes. Awesome. You're going to be producing distilled water.
Okay. But I mean, you know, I need apparatus for that. I don't have it.
Yeah?
I need apparatus to be.
Oh, no, you know, it's not very sophisticated.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that requires very simple. You could buy yourself a distiller.
I teach elementary math. How could I use it to enhance my skills in teaching elementary math?
Yes, oh, that you do. But in the business, I'm very, very interested in the business part.
Okay.
No, so
I'm interested in fact, you know, I actually practice your dietary regimen. I've been practicing it for over a year now.
Beautiful.
I drink half-gallon of water first thing in the morning. I follow that with
distilled water?
Distilled water.
Awesome.
I add a teaspoon of salt to 5 quarts of water.
Okay.
That's sea salt. And my dinner is centered around a huge vegetable salad.
Awesome. There you go.
And I'm 51 years old. I'm medication free.
Awesome.
I feel like I'm ready to run a marathon.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
And so
beautiful.
Yeah. And so, you know, I definitely you know, I endorse, you know, your dietary regimen.
That's a way to go, and it's simply based on the simple facts. See this, you know, people, you can acquire knowledge by several ways. Okay. You can stumble over knowledge. On the other hand, sometimes you are blessed with the knowledge in a way that is very clear, with an extraordinary clarity and precise. That's what Gargot is talking about. There are very few things you can touch that comes out of Gargot. It is so solid, so mathematical, and so precise. Because it's dealing from a fundamental principle that is true. It's a theorem. Now, that is how you're going to approach it with the teaching of the mathematics. Mathematics is the truth, and Gargot is the absolute truth. This is the absolute truth right here. Gij, comma, j equal to 0. There is nothing that you start with. If you do a proper bookkeeping, that will not obey this law. That is why I call the theory of everything. If you can find anything that disobeys this law, let me know. Okay. So it's the universal truth. And God is right there. That's the expression of God. That's what religions have been based on. God was the same yesterday, today, and forever. That's it right here. That's all there is knowledge, and everything else comes out of it. So if God is a mover and a shaker, then when God moves you, you go on this path. This is what flabbergasted the European world of mathematics. They're flabbergasted, this one here. Okay. This gives all the paths of that motion. Okay. All the motion that you've been going through since you were born can be computed using that. They have never seen anything like that before. And they put their very best to tear it down. And the verdict they returned is great. You understand? There's a guy called Sargas. Sargas is such an luminary in mathematics that they gave my work to it, who has been searching for the theorem himself. He died in 2003. I mean, this guy is a legend, absolute legend. He looked at the work, especially when they see this, he's just overwhelmed. Because all that they have studied up until this point has n equal 1 and n is equal to 0. That's all humanity has known before Gargot. They've never seen anything else before. And what Professor Animalou did by the glass, remember the thing I showed, laser through glass? Okay, the picture that I showed you before, Einstein's equation, there's no equation that can produce that. Only Gargot equation can produce that. That comes out when you make n equal 1, I mean 2. If n is equal to 2, you reproduce that solution. There is no solution of anything like that. So it's just simply overwhelming. And that's why we're getting all this health problem from it. Okay? There's a bad part too. Okay? Because when you go, so there is materialization. Okay? There's materialization. But I want to come to the teaching of the mathematics. Okay? But and that's how you teach it, what I'm teaching it. That's how you teach. Because that's all there is to mathematics. That's right here. This is geometry. That's all there is to mathematics. And these are all your geometric shapes. Okay. Your straight lines, your planes, your parabolas, all the regular curves are all here. Okay? So that's all you need in geometry. Okay. And that's all there is in mathematics. And every other subject can be transformed into mathematics. Everyone. And that's why, I didn't start out being an specialist in biology. But through Gargot, I can see biology. We have a proposed actual normal procedure for AIDS in terms of actually tuning the virus. You tune the virus into a good guy from a bad guy. Okay? But the prescription that we give right now is going to help the AIDS. Meanwhile, so if you know any brother or sister that is suffering from that condition, please put him on this regimen. See, what happens is when you are HIV, your system is compromised, and so you can easily get sick. When you get sick, you apply what I just told you. Stop putting solid food in your mouth for as long as you can stay in terms of fasting. When you're ready, you drink about half a gallon of distilled water. By the time you get to eat, the attack on your system because you stop putting food in, which is what they thrive on, the food that you put in your system. So if you're able to hold out a little bit, they will die or they will get starved down. So then when you get the distilled water in, you wash them down. You're back to being yourself again. And no hospital can give you much more than that. I don't take antibiotics. When I had that pneumonia, all I needed was distilled water and the fasting. The fasting starved out the germs or the bacteria. And once I get the distilled water, it simply washes it out. So these are basics, the basics in human system. Okay? So now, so there's a materialization. The materialization came from these waves. You know, concentrated brings you the materialization. The stable unit being hydrogen, or what some people have called the nigger element or Africanium. And those terms are important because we are the only people that have not gotten credit on the periodic table chart. No African has been, not even Carver, get his name mentioned there. There's an element called Einsteinium. There's one that is rock or something. I mean, it's all European names over there. There's even a Europeanum there. God in God's mysterious ways has wiped all that Europe's thing out and replaced it with Africanium. So from now on, there's only one element, and it's called Africanium or nigger element.
Okay. So again, you know, why do they have elementary mathematics so messed up?
Because they don't want you to learn the truth.
Okay.
That's the bottom line. But now you won't leave that to other people to decide for you anymore, because now you are going to be the teacher. But you must come to Gaga to learn the stuff.
Okay.
You don't want the European to pick this stuff from here and teach you, because they'll be teaching you at a level that will not be, may not even be correct. But they use the propaganda to fool you, and they'll be teaching you something that's wrong.
Okay.
You can say, I'm answering your questions. The European may not be able to answer your question because he didn't develop it.
Right.
And it's developed through an African system, a black, you understand? The melanin is what this was developed. So he will have a difficulty trying to get to understand those dynamics.
Okay.
So you don't want him teaching you this stuff.
Right.
So that's the basics. So and I would, so this materialization, of course, Murray Gell-Mann did a similar thing with subatomic particles. Took 100 particles and reduced them to 3 classes. They slapped him with the Nobel Prize right quick. Okay, we took 118 elements, okay, atomic particles called elements, reduced it to 1, which is a ratio of 100. In other words, what Dagot has done is to simplify science 118 times. Science has become now incredibly simple by a factor of 118. He simplified it by a factor of 34, and they slapped him with Nobel Prize right quick. That is why the African International Prize is so critical. Okay? So let me, okay, that's Murray Gell-Mann right there. Okay? That's it. Okay? I can't read it. The contribution, discoveries concerning the classification of elementary particles. That's what they got Nobel Prize for. And we've done something bigger, much bigger. I mean, just looking at the hydrogen component alone, much bigger than what he got the Nobel Prize. It's right here. This is simple comparison. A ratio of 118 to 1 as opposed to 100 to 3. Okay? That's how you know that you're being insulted. But why should you depend on somebody else to give you? That's where the question is. That's really the issue. And you can do, like I said, if each one talks to 10 people in your neighborhood, this money will be collected. We could do this every year. In that process, we become the center of the world. Because everybody will want to win the African International Prize. Which is another way of saying they will have to be nice to you. They will have to respect you. And it means, you know, things have been turned upside down. You become the master. That's what we're talking about. So I can't overemphasize this thing, and you heard Mr. Brown. As you go home today, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for this youngster here. You can see this brother is lined up for that prize. Right? Am I lying? Is there any elder here that doesn't see this brother as being on the line for that prize? Did you hear this question that you asked before? So, even if you don't do it yourself, what do you do for this young person here? Who do you think is going to give this brother a prize if you don't give him a prize? We wanted somebody to give Power a prize. But did Power get the prize? He didn't. And that's why I'm not getting the prize from them either. I mean, and I'm sure the lesson that I'm presenting today is going to get to their ears. Nobody from me today is going to hear that. So, boy, we can't give this one a prize. It's too black. That's what Cambridge said. They were discussing me. They said, I'm too black. And I love it. Because that's me. That's what God created me to be. Not to go and act and be somebody else. I can't pretend to not be proud of myself at this point. Okay? And all of you, because of this formula. This formula has transferred us into a precious, kind of thing. Yes? You were going to say something?
No, he want a picture with you.
Oh, yeah, sure. Come on.
Either his father or his friend.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Please. That's awesome. Absolutely awesome.
But I like that because he has the awareness.
Yes.
To understand, and he came up to get his picture. He said, I'm gonna go up and get this picture with this Nobel Prize nominee.
And he's online for it. If you only can support him. If you can support this brother, he's going to get the prize. Okay? Because every one of you would recommend him. He's asking about this formula already.
And articulated it.
And he's understanding what I'm saying. Only you can stop this brother from getting that prize. Okay? And since you have no reason to not be your African self anymore. And being your African self, you are going to do it for this next thing. That's what I can tell you. So
how old are you?
I'm 11 turned 12.
You're 11 turned 12?
Yeah. That was the age I was when I did that formula. Yeah. Oh, well, this is the hydrogen. Look at it here. Okay, these are the hydrogen. Stephen Hawking is talking about all manner of things. They're talking all kinds of crazy things. Okay? This is a hydrogen. There are 3 hydrogen isotopes. 1, 2, 3. Okay? And the key thing is a proton. Okay? Each hydrogen has one proton and 1 electron. Sorry, 1 proton and 1 electron. This one has 1 proton, 1 electron. This one has 1 proton, 1 electron. The difference between the various isotopes is the number of neutrons. Okay? This one has no neutron at all. This one has 1 neutron. And this one has 2 neutrons. That's So what happens is, look what happens when helium gets created. In helium, you have 2 protons and 2 neutrons, and then 2 electrons. So they thought that that's a different element before Gaga. This is how the whole learning has been changed altogether. They call this an element. That's before you draw the Gagot line. You draw this line here. You have a proton, a neutron, and an electron. Then you look here and said, a proton, a neutron, electron. What is that called? It's called hydrogen 2. So this is hydrogen 2. And then over down here you have a proton, a neutron, and an electron. That's another hydrogen 2. So helium is not another element. It is a nuclear compound formed by the fusion of 2 hydrogen units. That is, so that's helium. Okay? It's made through the fusion of 2 hydrogen units. So then you go further. Then you look at lithium. Okay? Lithium has 3 protons and 3 electrons. The neutrons are 1, 2, 3, there are 4. So again, you draw the Gargot line. This is hydrogen. Sorry. Proton, neutron, electron, that's hydrogen. Proton, neutron, electron, that's another hydrogen. And proton, 2 neutrons, and, sorry. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, 2 neutron and electron. That is this one here. A proton, 2 neutrons, and an electron, That is this hydrogen 3. So lithium is again 3 hydrogen units. And so you can sweep the whole periodic table, and they will all be made of hydrogens. So that's it. Every child can now learn chemistry. All they need to know is hydrogen. And this is the truth. That's true. It's a theorem. So the school boards now have to throw all the books away. The books go into the archives. There are no 118 elements. There's only one element, and that's hydrogen. Or the nigger element, or Africanium. Okay? Only one element, not 118. The school board needs to hear that. And it's your duty to pass this on to the school board and take the leadership. Teach them how to do their program. That's how they know you are in charge. And this is, basic forces here. This is a string theory. This is relativity. Okay, this is, okay, here you are, brother, look at. Mathematics is only geometry. Okay? Now that's what our ancestors, were used by God to develop. They developed mathematics, and mathematics is geometry. You have a traditional breakdown of things that says you have arithmetic, you have algebra, and you have geometry. So you look at arithmetic. Arithmetic is on this number line, 0 to infinity and 0 to minus infinity. Okay? This is arithmetic. Every operation that you do in arithmetic will lie, for the real numbers, they will lie on this line. Okay? So, all right. Then, if you want to conduct algebra, instead of saying 1 plus 2 equal to 3, 4 plus 6 equal to 10, you will write it like this: A plus B is equal to C. That is in the realm of algebra. But that is so therefore, algebra is arithmetic. But arithmetic is a line. Therefore, arithmetic is geometry. And because algebra is generic arithmetic, therefore algebra is also geometry. So there's only one subject, and that's geometry. Yes, sir. Okay. So yeah, so you want to teach the elementary. That's where you begin with that. So in that way, they can concentrate on geometry, and that is what Gargot is. Gargot is geometry. Okay? Yes. Yeah.
In theory, when you're talking about the one element, yes, hydrogen.
Yes.
How do you address the subatomic particles?
Yes.
There's some of the other, quarks and
yes,
and so
yes,
neutrinos and so forth.
Yes.
I just want to know how you address that.
Sure. Yes. That's a good question. The way you address that is like this wall here. See this wall? This wall has a building block. Okay, that's a block right there. That's what hydrogen is like. The subatomic particles are like you break this down. If you keep on breaking this down, to get to a point where you may not be able to construct something that is solid, that has integrity. So there is no end to how much you could break down an entity. There's no end. And that is what happened with Murray Gell-Mann. Murray Gell-Mann, the guy that I showed you a little while ago. Okay, because what he did was, the subatomic particles okay. That's Murray Gell-Mann. Okay? Now, he took 100 subatomic particles and reduced them to 3 classes because he found so many equivalents. So, you know, because every other week they were finding a new subatomic particle. The number was going wild. And so people began to think that, gee, where is the end? There's no end to it. So if he hadn't come around to say, hey, let's slow down. Like this piece here, you can keep on breaking it down. Even, I mean, you can go to any length you want. There's no limit. But the dream had been that you can find one that has just just one constitution. There's no such a thing. You can break a crystal, down, and you keep on breaking it down. You can keep on going. You understand? So, but the subatomic particles are not really particles. They are not stable. They're not stable. They only particle for just a quick second, and they disappear into waves. That's why that's why, so that's really the thing, But if you want to talk about material world, you want to talk about this is stable unit, okay? Because if you break the block, if you break it down too little, it becomes unstable. To become unstable, okay? Now that's the case with the subatomic particles. Because all that, see what happens is, you take a constitution that is solid, can stay by itself, and that you can use it to build the other systems. Okay? That's what hydrogen represents. And in terms of the solid, the material world, that's a good stable unit. Certainly in the chemistry, it's a good stable unit. Okay? So the subatomic particles, everybody knows that's not stable. They're more like waves, which is where things begin. When you lose enough mass, okay, a very infinitesimal, you have a tiny mass, like the antineutrino. Those are waves, okay? But everything transforms from waves. So when you start going, from hydrogen back down to waves, you go in the opposite direction. You exiting the materialization, okay? And you see, when you exit the materialization, you come back to eta sub 0. That's the wave. That's the realm of, live waves and all the other stuff. Where there's no mass, they behave like, waves. Okay, that's where we all started. That's the spirit, because spirit has no mass as such. Okay, and there's a transition. The tinier you get, the more spiritual you get, or more wavy you get. Okay. The more godlike you get. For example, antineutrino can pass through anything. Excuse me?
These molecules.
Yes.
These things change, but they're not unstable on them.
They're too tiny to be stable. They're too tiny. It's like a brother that has lost weight. A brother or sister that has lost so much weight, doesn't have any more energy. That kind of thing. They're not stable. They can't even stand. That kind of thing.
I mean, a gas is unstable.
Yeah. It doesn't have as much integrity. It doesn't have as much integrity as the solid.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the transition. You go from solid to liquid to gas. And then you begin to go into this rarefied kind of thing, and before you know it, you're becoming so-called massless. Means you are very tiny mass. When you get to that point, then you are behaving like waves. You go into the spirit realm.
But is that driven by a catalyst like heat applied to a
Yes. Yes.
gas and make it unstable?
Yes.
Is everything affected by in the same way by some kind of a catalyst?
Yes, there's energies. You're subjected to some energy dissociations. All manner of high energy, because in the synchrotrons, they bombard these particles. They bombard them. That's how they create them. They bombard them and then they shatter them into pieces, and they keep on bombarding them and then begin to go into this phase. Okay, when you direct high energy into the core of the nucleus, it can bombard a proton to the point where it can lose a charge, and then it becomes a neutron. When it loses its charge, it becomes a neutron. Out of that, you will get a beta particle radiation in that process, which is basically massless. It's waves. The radiation is waves. And then you have anti-neutrino, which is also waves. And they can pass through anything. Lead will normally shield radiation, okay, basic other radiations. But with anti-neutrino, lead cannot shield it. It goes through lead. Thick lead, it goes through it. Nothing stops. That's why they say the force that, the force field that is produced around anti-neutrino is called the weak force field, in the sense that nothing stops it. Every resistance is weak to it. It's too strong for any resistance. Okay? And that's what happened in the spirit world. The mind travels like that. There's no barrier for the mind. They talk about the speed of light being very fantastic, which is a wave already, light waves. They have photons. Photons, it's massless. Okay? But your mind travels faster than light. If you want to be on the surface of the earth right now, of the sun right now you're there. There is no time. But the sun takes 8 1/3 minutes. Sunlight takes 8 1/3 minutes to get here, which is 93 million miles. But your mind can get there in a second. Just think about it, you're there. You just imagine it, your mind goes there. That's also waves. Very fast waves. And God's waves, the real core of God's wave is much faster than that. That's why God is able to be everywhere instantaneously. The sun gives us a model for that. The sun, the light waves leave the sun and it comes here. That's very short. That's very fast. We cannot do that. If we want to get our home, it takes us not 8 1/3 minutes. It takes us much longer, which is no distance at all. But here you have 93 million miles. So God created that entity. God's speed is faster than that. So that's why Albert Einstein was wrong to say the speed of light is the limit. No way. Your mind is much faster than light. And certainly God's waves are much, much, much faster. God can be everywhere. See, because it's instantaneous. Okay? You want to be over there, bam, you're there in your mind. Okay? You want to be there like this. Okay? But the light is pretty fast, but not as fast as your mind. Okay? Because it's wave travels at, various velocities. And the thinner the wave, the faster they go. The faster. Because even big solids, this thing has waves. Everything, we all come from waves. Okay? Some are slower than others. The one in the material body is very slow. And the slower they are, the less important they are. That's why the mind controls the body. The mind is really the human that you have. And when they say we are like God, what they're saying is we resemble God through our minds. Because our mind is the closest thing to God, along with our life waves, because our life comes from the reservoir that is God. And so it's not surprising that the speed of, of life waves and all those waves kind of, are high, very high. You can think, the thinking process, they've been talking about consciousness. That's the process of consciousness. Consciousness is embedded in it as of zero. Consciousness. Cambridge professor was giving a lecture, the UN lecture, and he was saying, gee, we have no idea what consciousness is. That's consciousness, yes, it as of zero. Okay? Your mind and information transformation and absorption. That's consciousness. It's consciousness. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to clear up something. As we discussed during the workshop, the 118 substances we call elements,
yes,
are fundamental primary compounds of the building block hydrogen.
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you agree that the characteristics that have been defined through the history for those primary compounds are still valid?
Well, there are certainly some experimental data that you can argue with.
Yeah, yeah. That's
so, yeah, those that have been proven are proven.
Yeah, in
other words, we're not saying that whatever was observed per se is wrong. No.
That's my point.
Yeah, no,
that's my point.
That's not the point. No, yeah, I mean,
I just want to clear that up.
No, we don't disagree with the facts.
Right.
But what we're saying is, like, one of the guys during the global lecture tour, one of the professors of chemistry, they were separate. I mean, there were a lot of emotions. I wish you all can spend time, and this a brother like this and all the other friends that are over here need to sit down and watch that video. Okay, so they can see, because there's a whole lot in there. There were a lot of reactions. Some were very, very violent, actually. Okay. Two professors of chemistry came and they were saying that, well, you can't say this. Say, man, this destroys everything I learned. No, yeah. Well, look, yeah, it's changed everything. But it isn't that you can't use whatever data you have gotten. What Gagot is simply saying is that there's nothing unique about what you have gathered. There's nothing unique about them. In other words, what you call periodic table right now is not unique. You can, for example, you can construct another line of periodic table of elements, okay, by combining just this, maybe not this, but this. You can make all the elements, another element that is only made of this. Or you can make one that is only made of this, or some kind of combination. And that will be a different line altogether. It will blow your mind what Gagot has found, especially in areas of superconductors and all this other stuff. It will blow your mind. So, in other words, there is no real rational reason to dwell on the 118. You've simply limited yourself, actually, because there's no end to it. It's not a 118 if you want to keep those elements. Just keep on adding another hydrogen. There's no end to it. You have infinite number of them. But you have only classified 118. And you're bragging about it and say, gee, this is all there is to science. No. And that's why the number keeps on increasing. And there's no end to it. Because it goes on this basis, just add another hydrogen. And if you give proper conditions, they will stick. The ones that they were able to find in nature, okay, are the ones that they classify.
But don't we have some information that chemists, don't we have some information that chemists determined by analyzing the isotopes of hydrogen? Don't we already have some of that information?
That's why they keep on finding new material, new isotopes.
Right.
Notice that the number of isotopes keep on increasing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if you add another, I mean, that's the whole thing. All that they have learned so far, they're now going to use Gargot to re-examine all of them. Because the information that they have right now is tiny, very tiny. It will blow your mind. That's why I want to get you all to begin to seriously learn this here. You can learn a whole lot now with Gargot than you've ever learned before. Okay? We can compose elements up to 1 million. Just like you can technically create compounds, the chemical compounds, to the tune of there's 17 million possible compounds. So this professor was saying, well, we want to keep the elements as they are. We know that they're composed of hydrogen, but we want to keep them. And I said, no, that may be true. But if you want to keep them and still keep their listing on the wall, then I suggest that you keep the list of all the chemical compounds on the wall. That is about 17 million of them. You have to put a chart on the wall that has 17 million elements. If you don't do, and you can create a periodic table of elements that is 1 million too, the so-called element, because the difference between the nuclear compounds, or what you call the primary compounds, and the chemical compounds is the bonding. And there are even mixtures. The difference between a mixture chemical compound and nuclear compound is the bonding, how strong the bonding is with the constituents. And in the case of the nuclear compounds, because the bonding is so strong, they think it's one unit. Okay? The mixtures. That's right, which is now, that's a misrepresentation. They're not elements. They are compounds. They're very bonded compound, but they're compounds nevertheless, because they have a constitution. Just like what you said about subatomic particles. You can break it down. Okay? Now, it may not be easy because of the heaviness of the bond. Okay? But it can be, because you know the constitution, just like you see here. Okay? Okay, just like you see here, that's a breaking down. Okay? You break that along that line, you have two. It is very clear. That's geometry. This is geometry here. If you have this and that, you will get this. That's what this says. If you get this and that, you will have this as well. So that is what it is. That's the Constitution. Very clear. The fact that it's well bonded doesn't change that reality. Okay? It's bonded nicely, which is what he was talking about. He says, well, this thing is so nice, you can't easily dissociate it. But yeah, fission, in the fission process, they approach that process in the fission. Okay? So you can't dissociate it along this line here. So yes, you've gotten information, but you're getting very little information. Very little. When you do it this way, then you can get tons and tons of information. No question, no.
There's no reason to discard that information. It's a matter of how do you interpret what it is that you're doing?
Yeah, well, you see, you can keep it for references.
Yeah.
That's why they go into the archives.
Yeah. No, but it's useful in life. I mean, there are.
No, but the way you transform it. See, you know what it is like? Let me give you an example. If you build a car with the 1900 technology, it's a good car.
Yeah.
Absolutely good car.
Yeah.
You can ride it occasionally in this day and age using fancy stuff, but compared with a modern car, you can, that's why they're not on the road. Right? They are more or less in archives. That's exactly what we're talking about. The car that you made in 1800 is useful. Yes, it's useful, but it has outlived its usefulness. You now put it and you watch it and have fun with it. There's no place anymore. That's why I don't go to the road and see if you see a car that was made, in the 1800s when Ford was building cars. You can't see it on the road anymore. That's exactly what the elements are going to be in the realm of Gaga. They're useful, but they've outlived. I mean, what they can do is so small with what Gaga can do that you don't need them anymore. You push them aside. And what you're saying is real, because in terms of how people feel, because these professors, even the math professor, the Indian math professor, that you have that in here, he said his 42 years of experience has been washed out. And he argued with me for a long time. And at the end of it all, he just walked out and said, gee, I can't believe it, he said. My 42 years of learning and teaching mathematics has been reduced to nothing by Gaga. That's what it is. Just like the current Mercedes-Benz technology in building cars has washed out the old-fashioned kind of way. Because, yes, you want to fool around with that one, you can't accomplish much with it. So why bother? Put it in the historical thing. You say, well, long time ago, that's where we were. That's what we were doing. That's what the elements will serve now. There's only one element. You can't go back and talk about 118 elements anymore. That's old-fashioned. It's gone. Washed out forever. Of course, there's going to be resistance, but they can only hold on for so long. They can't go on with it because you have no idea. One of the nasty potential use of Gaga is in the military arena. Okay? You can't dwell in the old-fashioned kind of thing and you think, you know, you'll be obsolete. The biggest power of the U.S. in terms of winning the Second World War and all that what makes the U.S. a big power, part of it was hydrogen bomb.
Yeah.
Now Gaga says everything is hydrogen. What does that tell you? Every material thing has a potential of being turned into a bomb.
Yeah.
That wasn't what they thought before. Very cheap too. You can even, if you properly tune the content of the Mother Earth, you can actually ignite it, boom, and explode it. Because the entirety of the Mother Earth is hydrogen. You can just tune it and explode it, and we'll all be dead. Yeah. That is why some of the things remains in my mind. I cannot write it down because some of these not so bright people that all they're interested in is power and destruction can take that and do stupid things and destroy themselves. So that kind of understanding is not something that you're going to push aside and say, gee, I like 118 elements.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Now, how can a not quite satisfied yet, how can a person who has, let's say, spent 40 some years in mathematics say that everything has been wiped out because of Gaga? Because you have to have an appreciation of mathematics to understand how eta sub n was developed, and you have to have an appreciation of mathematics, a deep appreciation, to understand what happens, how you recover equations from the past and the useful equations in the future from eta sub n, allowing n to vary. So how can he say that? How can anybody say that all that they've done in mathematics is wiped out? When they have to have that understanding.
Yeah, but what we're saying is, see, learning in many ways is a trial and error, hit and miss kind of thing. In other words, the route that they have gone before Gaga is a hit and miss, and it's inefficient. It is, to say the least, okay? And they have learned very little. The key word is you've acquired very, very little, very minimum stuff. Okay. See, I mean, there are a lot of things in terms of, for example, problem that they run into. Okay? The people who are doing something, superconductivity and all, they run into all kinds of problems.
Yeah, right.
With Gargot, that's no problem at all. A lot of things that are about to be revealed to the world.